Do you see my slides?
Yes.
Yeah, I will put that in diaporama. Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have I want to start by and begin by warmly thanking the EFELA, the European Federation of Energy Law Association, and in particular Marinella de Focatis, our dedicated Secretary General, Vicente Lopez Ibor-Mayor, of course, the President of EFELA, and my thanks also to the Executive Committee. I have the honor of serving as Treasurer. This is not an easy task, but I'm happy to do that. I also wish to extend my gratitude, of course, to our Hungarian hosts, notably Professor Robert Zuski and the Karoli Gaspari University. Robert is such an active member of EFELA, and I want also to thank a lot Carola Veronica Urban and the entire organizational team for the efforts to make this Congress possible. Look, I'm so sorry to cannot be there in Budapest today, but I'm very happy to contribute to this panel on the update of the European climate law on the 2040 climate target package. My perspective today will be French. Maybe some of you know that France decarbonization does not primarily depend on technology because we have a lot of nuclear capacity, but it depends on the capacity to make clear political choices, socially legitimized and anchored in law and embed in a stable framework for investments. So I will begin very quickly because it's just a reminder containing the European framework. You know that the European climate law establishes the binding objective of climate neutrality by 2050. It imposes obligation not only on the Union institution but for the member states. And on July 2025, the Commission proposed a revision to introduce an intermediate step. By 2040, the Union should achieve a 90% net reduction in greenhouse gas emission. And in the French case, the paradox is evidence. Our electricity is already largely decarbonized thanks to nuclear power, but we are facing structural delays in deploying renewables. Considering the French legal framework, France anchored its energy transition in the 2015 Energy Transition for Green Growth Act. The Energy Code sets ambitious objectives: 40% of GHG reduction by 2030, having final energy consumption by 2050, 40% cut in fossil fuels used by 2030, and 33% of renewables in final consumption by 2030. However, the normative value of these objectives is uneven. Some are binding and others are programmatic. And that's why contradiction arises between a need for supply security and the conflict with environmental protection in a time of the multiplication of crises. The Conseil d'État, the French administrative judge, has even ordered the state to adopt corrective measures when emission trajectories were not respected. And France relies on two main planning instruments. First one, the National Low Carbon Strategy, SNBC, and the Multi-Year Energy Plan, the PPE, la PPE. And we could note that there is two important recent law in France, a 2023 APER law on acceleration of production of renewable energy, and the 2033 nuclear law. And these two laws illustrate the French paradox and the difficulty to choose between nuclear energy and renewables. So the message I wanted to share is that France has a rich but unstable, sometimes contradictory legal framework. Concerning nuclear, renewables, and renewable energy, we could observe that there is some paradox in the investment signals. It's why I wanted to underline this French paradox. Concerning the nuclear energy, the 2023 law removed both the 50% cap on nuclear power, and now we have a procedure for EPR2 reactor and SMR, and these procedures are simplified. The idea is to reinvest in nuclear in France. Projects on nuclear energy are now recognized as being of overriding public interest. The idea is to decrease the constraint of environmental regulation in order to accelerate the implementation and the production of nuclear power. So for investors, I want to say that nuclear in France appears consolidated and attractive, and notably for SMR, not only for big nuclear plants. Concerning renewables, it's more difficult. France missed its EU 2020 targets, and that's why the French legislator has decided to create a law, to elaborate a new law and create acceleration zones. Acceleration zones, it's a zone established by local entities, les communes and établissements publics de coopération intercommunale. And the idea is to introduce planning in France, a planification, in order to identify some zones proper to develop some renewable energy. To increase also the development of renewable energy, we have introduced in this law long-term PPAs, like in other national countries in Europe, and established an interesting instrument, I think. It's the territorial value sharing concept. The idea for an investor, sometimes it's mandatory, sometimes it's voluntary, for an operator, it's to share the benefits of the project with local entities and neighbors. But yet we have to say that France face some administrative difficulty, problem of access to the network and availability of the network, and social opposition, and notably litigation. Concerning hydrogens, France wants to develop low-carbon hydrogens, notably from nuclear electricity, and it's a debate, you know that, because France supports this low-carbon hydrogen, not green carbon hydrogen. So, to sum up this slide, as I said previously, we have a contradictory signal between nuclear, which is stable, a pillar for French production of electricity, and renewables, which is more urgent, but legally fragile, and with a lot of administrative constraints. Hydrogen is a promising complement, but not well developed yet. Concerning political instability, that's maybe the main preoccupation, because this political instability leads to fragile planning. To be honest, the main bottleneck currently is political, not technological. The energy code requires an energy law every 5 years. This law is central for the planification of France. And on this basis, on the basis of a modification on law every 5 years, so with a debate on the parliament, you have a document, a pluriannual investment document, PPE, with central to planning. But because of the political instability, this document, this new law and this document has been repeatedly postponed despite consultation in 2023, 2024, and 2025. We have a delay of 3 years concerning this document of planification. And it's very complicated for investors to invest in that type of, with such uncertainty. So this vacuum undermines legal certainty and investor confidence. And the objective remains declaratory. So to sum up, the French problem, it's not a technological one, but more political and normative instability. In terms of, I wanted also to address two other things concerning this question of two questions very quickly. The first one is the normative quality. We are in a legal panel, and we have a problem of quality of the rules in France because we have too much rules. And the Conseil d'État, the Conseil constitutionnel, and a lot of experts of energy law in France are indicating every day to the French government that the rules are more and more complicated. And for investment, it's very difficult to invest with such regulation. So we need to clarify, and we need also to deregulate. This question of the normative quality is a big problem in France. And the second one I wanted to develop before concluding is the question of social and territorial dimensions. Because we can observe now a strong debate in France in the territory. Some people say, why we need renewables? We have nuclear. So this question of conjunction between nuclear and renewables, it's very important to address politically speaking. And for investor, for industrial, it's very important to take into account that it's not the same fields of investment than 10 years ago. Now, if you want to invest in France and to develop renewable energy, you have to integrate this question of social and territorial approach in your business model and to have the possibility to work on the strategy to implement your activity. To conclude, France it's paradoxical, but as usual, France already benefits from a decarbonized electricity mix, yet it is very late on renewables. And with regard to legal and political framework, unstable, I'm not optimistic about our possibility to fit our objective for 2050. So we have not a technological, but a political and social problem. And the way to secure a framework, it's, in my mind, three things. One, I think that we need Europe to address not only this question of rules for development of technology, PPA, etc., but to address concretely this question of social acceptance and to have the same approach at the European scope, maybe concerning this mechanism of territorial share value. And secondly, I think that we definitely need stability on the rules in France for the and quality of the norm. And thirdly, for investors, it's important to take into account that now social acceptance in France is something to address at the very beginning of a project, industrial project to develop renewables or nuclear plants. Thank you a lot for your